Imagine being 19 years old, legally an adult, but living like a prisoner under your own parents' roof. Every step you take, every breath you breathe, monitored through a glowing dot on a screen. And when I dared to carve out just a sliver of privacy, my parents panicked so badly they called the police. What happened next? It turned their obsession into the very thing that set me free. If you've ever felt the sting of being underestimated or controlled, hit that subscribe button right now. Like this video and share your own stories in the comments, because today you will hear how a little act of rebellion and a whole lot of irony turned my parents' rules upside down. I'm a 19-year-old woman, and at the time of this story, I was still living at home with my parents. Now, let me make something very clear. My parents weren't bad people. They weren't abusive in the traditional sense. But when it came to me, their daughter, they were suffocating. Knowing they had my phone location turned on 24/7. If my battery dipped below 10%, or if I didn't text back immediately, I wasn't met with concern. I was met with interrogation. Where are you? Why aren't you answering? Who are you with? But here's the kicker. My older brother, who was 21, never got this treatment. He could vanish for 6 hours with no explanation, and my parents would shrug. He's responsible, they'd say, but me? I was treated like a fragile porcelain doll on the verge of shattering. It wasn't just controlling, it was humiliating. The double standard carved into me every single day. One particular weekend, the tension broke. I remember sitting on my bed, staring at my phone screen, watching the little GPS symbol glow like a leash around my neck. I thought, do they even see me as a person? Or just a dot they have to monitor? My chest felt tight, like I couldn't take a full breath. My heart pounded just at the thought of leaving the house without permission. That's how deeply they had trained me into fear. And yet I craved something simple. Not rebellion, not danger. Just a few hours of peace. A coffee shop. A walk. The luxury of being anonymous, invisible, just for a little while. So I reached out to a close friend who knew my situation. They offered a simple trick. Nothing illegal or extreme. Just a way to mask my location temporarily. Basically, I could make it look like I was somewhere else while I actually slipped out. That Saturday, I left my phone at home, charging, glowing like a good little beacon, and walked out the door with nothing but my wallet and keys. My parents thought I was upstairs in my room, but I was finally free. I walked downtown. The air felt different, cleaner somehow. I bought myself a latte, sat outside the cafe, and for the first time in ages, I wasn't glancing over my shoulder. I wasn't sending constant proof of life updates. I was just a normal young woman on a Saturday morning. The silence was intoxicating, but freedom is never without consequence. 2 hours later, I returned home, humming to myself, coffee cup in hand. I thought I had pulled it off perfectly, but as I stepped inside, I froze. My mother's face was pale, her eyes wild. My father stood rigid by the door, fists clenched, and sitting awkwardly on the couch were 2 uniformed police officers. I blinked, not understanding. My mother practically lunged toward me, clutching my arms. "Where have you been? We thought you were missing. We called your brother. We called the police." The words hit me like ice water. My stomach dropped. I stammered, I just went for a walk. The officers looked at me, really looked at me, then at my parents. One of them frowned. "You called us, 'cause your 19-year-old daughter didn't answer her phone for a couple hours." My dad cleared his throat, defensive. "She's young. She's vulnerable. Anything could have happened." The officer's eyebrow arched. "Sir, she's legally an adult. Does she live under some kind of medical supervision? Any special needs we should be aware of?" "Oh," my mom admitted quietly. That moment, it was like a knife, slicing through years of suffocating control. The officers stayed professional, but their tone shifted, sharp, almost chastising. One said, "Look, we understand being protective, but there's a difference between safety and control. She's 19. If you treat her like a child, she'll never learn to be responsible. And frankly, it's not an appropriate use of emergency services." My parents' faces burned red. In that moment, their authority, the towering walls they'd built around me, crumbled in front of strangers. Strangers who spoke with the authority they actually respected. I stood there, oddly calm. For once, I wasn't the one defending myself. Didn't have to argue or shout or cry. The officers did it for me. When they finally left, the silence was deafening. My mom fumbled with her phone, muttering something about overreacting. My dad just sat down, his face hard to read. But that night, something miraculous happened. The tracking app, the one that had followed did they suddenly treat me the same as my brother? Not exactly. The double standard was still there, lingering like an old scar. But the constant surveillance stopped. The midnight interrogations ended. I could go for a coffee or take a walk without the shadow of being hunted down. The irony wasn't lost on me. Their obsession with controlling me had backfired so spectacularly. It took the police calling them out in their own living room to finally make them see how far they'd gone. And in that awkward, embarrassing public moment, I found my revenge. Not through screaming matches, not through rebellion, but by letting their own paranoia destroy itself. Step disappeared from my phone, deleted. Would I recommend involving the police as a tactic? Absolutely not. It was terrifying in the moment. But for me, it forced a conversation that years of begging never achieved. Sometimes revenge isn't about plotting someone's downfall. Sometimes it's about holding up a mirror so they can look away from their own behavior. And when that mirror is a police officer raising an eyebrow in your living room, trust me, the lesson sticks. So what do you think? Were my parents overprotective or just plain controlling? And what's the most satisfying revenge you've ever seen against unfair treatment? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share this video with someone who needs to hear that sometimes. The best revenge is simply letting the truth speak for itself.